Hey everyone, welcome to the Sackhoff Show. I am your host, Katee Sackhoff. Happy Tuesday and welcome to the show. I am so happy that you are here. Before I tell you all about today's guest, I want to remind you to send your comments and your questions to thesackoffshow@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. And also, we have a Patreon. I'm sure you've heard of it by now, but we have a really wonderful community that we've been building over there from the start of this that has seemed to transition over to the Patreon. We have a great time over there. We have extended hindsights. We have exclusive content. We've got merch. We've got so many fun things over there. And I just love it. And I love that I talk to the patrons almost daily, which is really fun. So if that's something you want to participate in, we're at patreon.com/thesackoffshow. I also want to tell you to stick around for the hindsight where we talk about the guest and all things our life. Me and Jeph are a we now. We have it our life. It's true. But I'm gonna just talk about our guest because now I'm rambling. Our guest, I had never met before. I knew of her, but had never met. And I was really excited and I jumped at the opportunity to talk to her. If you are a gamer, you will know who she is. We are talking to none other than Ashly Burch today. Ashly is a writer, director, producer, actor. She is wonderfully talented. She just has the ability to be completely authentic in everything that she does, which is so wonderful. She started in a YouTube channel called Hey Ash, Whatcha Playin. And it was a YouTube channel that she just started with her brother, and it ended up taking off and subsequently led to other opportunities. She played Mel in the Last of Us video game. She was in Horizon Zero Dawn. She played the title character of Aloy. And she also, on Apple TV's Mythic Quest and the new Side Quest, which she wrote, produced, directed, starred in with some other people, but she is so instrumental in that show. And that was one of the things that we were really excited to talk about. So I am a huge fan now. This is also one of those really interesting things. If you listen to the Brent Spiner episode, you know how I was feeling. And I said that there was another guest that preceded Brent. That was Ashly. So my migraine starts for Ashly, and it obviously ended with Brent. So this is not necessarily the interview that I would normally do. I would have talked to her much longer. I always talk to people much longer, as you can tell. It was just one of those weird things. We talk about it in the hindsight. So you don't want to miss it. Hang out for that. But I'm just going to get out of your way and let you get to know this wonderful, extraordinary, talented person, Ashly Burch, a little bit better. When this podcast was first starting, it wasn't a podcast, it was a YouTube channel, which you're very familiar with. Are we starting? Okay, great. I was going to be like, this is like actually leading into questions. So when this podcast or show originally started on YouTube, it was like a Katee did type of show. Like, what do I want to do today? Let's research it. Let's do it.
Right.
The simplest ones were like, you know, let's go to the grocery store and try to buy a week's worth of food for like, you know, $100. The hardest ones were like, let's go run a Spartan race and actually like train for it. And so they were all different levels of commitment for these episodes. But one of them was all about cryo and freezing your brain.
Okay.
Like cryo freezing your brain.
Right.
So they can bring you back at some point.
Right.
Right. It's in Arizona. The place is in Phoenix. So we went to Phoenix to interview this guy about freezing our bodies and freezing our brains, you know, to come back and be like the Jetsons someday.
Right.
That's all I know about Arizona.
I love that that's your only impression of Arizona. Yeah. It's the place you go and it was freeze yourself.
And it was like in not a strip mall, but like a business center, like business malls, like out where like you may also be able to like store your furniture out here too.
There's an H&R Block, like corporate headquarters next to the place where you freeze your brain.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. They're on the same power source. It's great. It's great. What could go wrong?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Anyone trips the power, your brain is fried.
Exactly. That's what I know about Arizona.
Hilarious that it's in the hottest state in the union. Is where you go to freeze yourself.
The irony of that never got me. Like, I did not go there because there were so many others that I just couldn't wrap my brain around. It was the craziest episode ever.
Yeah, what was that? I mean, did it seem like a legitimate, were you like, yes, I could come here and freeze my brain? Or was it like this kooky guy that was like, had a freezer? You know what I mean?
Could you imagine? It's just like a Ted Bundy-esque guy that's like freezer 1, freezer 2.
Yeah, right.
No, it's like a legitimate thing where like they've got like slabs where they put the body because like you got to die on purpose if you're going to freeze your brain because you've got to freeze it really fast.
Right.
So this is like people with an obscene amount of money that are like, I want to live forever. Not only will you freeze my brain and save me, but when I die, I'm going to have like a locator on me.
So that you can get the body.
Find me as quickly as possible and remove my body. Because it's such a great way to spend money. You know what I mean? Like that's a really great way to spend money.
To have your corpse airlifted out to Phoenix to be put in a freezer.
Like don't even try to save their life. Like intercept the like medevac unit. Just like get in there and get that body because we need that brain. We need that brain.
That's so wild.
There are a lot of people frozen. And they do full body too.
Really? So was it just like when you went there, was it just, this is just an interview about an episode you already did. Do you like that?
Exactly. So if you guys want to go watch that episode, you should do it.
I'm just so fascinated.
But it was really fascinating. And the irony is that I brought it up to my producer, Jeph, and he knew all about it because he had also done, was it a research thing, Jeph? What was it?
A glorified class project.
It's pretty much what my YouTube channel was. But that brings me to your YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah.
But where did Hey Ash, What You Playin come from?
So my brother, who now is, he has his own podcast and he's a games writer and stuff, but he used to work for a games website as a features editor. And he's always loved video games. And he wanted to make a documentary about indie game developers. Which now there is a documentary that exists that he did not make, called Indie Game the Movie. But this is before that, and he was like, "Oh, I'll just get a camera and I'll like go on the road and I'll interview these guys." But he didn't know how to work a camera and he didn't have any of that knowledge. So he was like, "Well, maybe I'll learn by doing dumb sketches with my sister." And so that's sort of how things started. Was that he just wanted to figure out how to learn how to use this equipment. But then the sketch show ended up being sort of the thing that led to all the other things anyway. And then he never made that documentary.
But he gave someone else the idea.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There you go. So the intention was literally just to sit down and help him sort of create this thing or learn how to do this thing. And out of it comes, were a lot of your opportunities straight out of that show?
Yes, honestly. I think it was either a combination of, it was like a combination of that and then voice work that I did. But I got, part of the reason that Anthony he got hired to write Borderlands 2, which is a very popular game, partially because of Hey Ash, because of the sketches that we did. And then I was voiced a character in that game, sort of for the same reason. And I, basically every writing job that I've gotten, what has been in some part related to Hey Ash. Like when I wrote for Adventuretime, it was because of Hey Ash. When I wrote for Mythic Quest, it was partially because of Hey Ash. So really wild. Because as you say, the intention was not like, this will be our stepping stone. It was like, this is a goofy thing we'll do. I was still in high school when we started doing Hey Ash. So it was like, we were not thinking that far ahead.
So you say that like growing up in Arizona, you spent a lot of time indoors. Was that, where did your love of video games come from?
Truly that. I mean, well, also, I just remember video games always being a part of our lives. My mom is an immigrant from Thailand.
Okay.
And education was always a huge thing in her family. That was like, to them, like she grew up really poor. And that was the thing that her mom always instilled in her was like, get a good education. Because if you get a good education, then you can get more access to opportunity and you can make more money. So that was also her thing coming to the States. She was like, they need to be well educated. And so she was kind of ahead of the curve because she saw video games not just like as a distraction or a form of entertainment, but also as like a way to educate us. So
really?
Yeah. So she got us a NES, and obviously we had like Mario Brothers, but she also got us a Sesame Street game. And so we had to play the Sesame Street game.
Okay. So little bit of learning, little bit of something
fun.
else.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was her main thing was seeing it as a tool for education. And then it's very hot in Arizona. So as I grew up, I was like, I don't really want to go outside and play. I'm going to stay inside and play video games.
What was it about video games that you loved so much?
That's a good question. There's just something about, do you play games much at all?
I have. I played upright like games in an arcade when I was a kid. My parents owned a pizza parlor.
Oh,
so
no
I played
way.
those games.
That's fun.
But it never really translated past a Nintendo and like Duck Hunt and Mario Brothers.
Right.
My brother went on to play more video games in his life, but I never did. I never went further than that.
I think for me, the meaning evolved over time. Originally, it was a fun thing to do. It was a form of education that my mom sort of instilled in us. And then it became a way to connect with my brother.
Yeah.
Then it became, I had pretty bad anxiety when I was a kid, and it became a way to calm myself down. That was like there was a lot of stuff that I tried when I was having sort of an anxiety attack, and the only thing that could calm me down was video games. I think because they were so engaging and they just took so much of my faculties that I didn't have brain space anymore to be anxious. I would forget that I was anxious.
Yeah.
But if I was like just watching a show or trying to play with toys or something, I would get still really in my head. But video games just like really it took my whole brain space and really connected to the game. And that really like helped me regulate my nervous system. And then it became like video games just became more and more cinematic and more narrative driven. And then I just got really into them for that reason as well. They just, at different points in my life, they've just been really meaningful for different reasons. Now, I do a lot of performance in video games, and but also like there are ways that I stay in touch with friends. Yeah. I play games with friends still to stay in touch with them and stuff like that. So they have filled lots of different spaces in my life.
Did you talk to your mom when you were little about your anxiety? Was that something that you had an open dialogue about?
Not really. I don't think I knew what it was or really how to talk about it. I think if I was a kid now, I just think there's more conversation, around like identifying things.
Yeah.
Like saying that's depression, that's anxiety, that's ADHD, that's whatever. But back then, I think I just sort of thought that's how life was, is that you just get really panicked for no reason sometimes.
Yeah.
The most that I think the family knew about it was that I would have anxiety around food. Like I would just get really nervous about throwing up for some reason. So I wouldn't eat very much sometimes. And that concerned her. And so she took me to the doctor for that. But it wasn't like, the doctor wasn't then like, your daughter has an anxiety disorder. It was just sort of like, you need to stop worrying about throwing up and eat your food.
Let's not talk about why.
Okay, doc.
Let's talk about what.
Yeah, exactly.
So stop that.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When did you realize that people voiced the characters in video games and that was a career path?
So that was when we played this game called Metal Gear Solid. I was 12 or something, and we played this game, and the creator of that series is very cinematic. He loves film. And so the game was fully voiced, which didn't happen a lot back then. And then whenever a character was introduced, it would say the name of the character and then it would say another name. And at the time I was like, what is this second name? And then I looked it up and I realized that's the actor playing the character. And it was like, I had like a Ratatouille moment. I just like sort of went into the future and was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do.
Huh. You've had the opportunity to voice so many different characters that people really look up to. What does it mean to you to sort of like give a soul to these sort of like flat characters on paper, like to take the character out of there and bring it to life? Because so many people find so much joy in them.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. It's really meaningful and it's really affirming because it's, especially, I think it's changing more and more, but I think earlier on in my career, people didn't really necessarily understand games or performance in games. Even still, if people aren't familiar with games, they'll be like, so you're like Mario? You say like, it's a me? And I'm like, well, it's a little more complicated than that now. But yeah, especially earlier on in my career, it wasn't as ubiquitous. I feel like people didn't have that understanding of games. And now, people go to games for as complex of storytelling as they do for television or movies. And so especially some of the characters I've played have had to carry a lot of like heavy narrative weight. Right. And when you start doing that, going into like Chloe in Life is Strange or Aloy in Horizon, there is a certain amount of, there's a sense of responsibility that I had of like, okay, this really, like, especially for Aloy, she's the lead of a franchise. So there's this feeling of, and back when I was recording it, there weren't a lot of female leads in games.
No.
It was, you might have the choice to play as a woman, but there were very few games that was like, there's one main character and it's a woman and you play as her. So I felt a lot of responsibility to make that character feel complex and interesting and nuanced. And so to put so much of myself in those characters and have people respond to them is so meaningful because it really is, you don't know. I mean, I'm sure you've had the experience too of like being in a project and you're like, I'm connecting to this and I'm giving it my all, but you have no idea how it's going to be received.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it comes out and people are like, I see what you did and I respond to it and I like it. It's very affirming.
This episode is brought to you by OneSkin. Hello, summer. I love it. I love this weather. And as it warms up, you might want to rethink your skincare routine. I know that I am, especially if you're using a retinol. Retinols are everywhere these days, and they can leave your skin more vulnerable to sun damage. So this is why I'm continuing to only use OneSkin's facial moisturizer, OS1 Face, this summer. In lab studies, OS1 boosted the collagen production, similar to retinol, but without that sun sensitivity risk. And unlike retinol, which can disrupt your skin barrier, OS1 Face strengthens it, helping your skin become even more resilient to the sun, heat, and pollution and other types of environmental stressors. I love this product. My skin feels better. It looks better. It's not as sensitive. I ditched my retinols. It is absolutely smooth to put on, the sunscreen as well, and it doesn't have a fragrance that irritates my skin or my eyes. I use OneSkin on my face, I use it on my body, I use the sunscreen, and I actually also use the hair treatment, which I just started using, and I'll tell you more about that at some point. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company by focusing on the cellular aspects of aging. OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off using code Sackhoff at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code Sackhoff, SACKHOFF. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support this show and tell them we sent you. Give your skin the scientifically proven gentle care it deserves this summer with OneSkin. This episode is brought to you by EveryPlate. One of the things I hear a lot from people is that you cannot have at-home delivery meal service unless you're willing to spend tons of money. That's not necessarily the case. With EveryPlate, you get restaurant-style delicious meals week after week, and it is cost-effective. We did the math in our household. We did the math on getting meals delivered to us that we then prepared at home with EveryPlate. And then we also went to the grocery store and just shopped like we would normally shop and cooked meals how we would normally cook meals for the week. We saved money with EveryPlate. EveryPlate rotates their weekly recipes all the time, so you're getting new recipes to try. It is fun. It's one of the things that we love in our family. You've heard me talk about this before. My daughter loves to cook. She loves the colorful pictures. She loves that the recipe is right there, and so do I. It is something that we can do together. We enjoy it, and the recipes and the meals are easy to follow. They're done in 20 to 30 minutes. You have a home cooked meal for your family. I cannot stress this enough, how great this is. What are you waiting for? Dig into these flavor-packed meals your household will love. New customers can enjoy this special offer of only $1.99 a meal. Go to everyplate.com/podcast and use code Katee199 to get started. Applied as discount on first box, limited time only. Have a great summer with EveryPlate. There's because I'm not necessarily in the gaming world, I feel like I'm sort of like in a parallel world, like walking next to it in a lot of ways, just because I have voiced characters in games and things like that. But I've never really been in the gaming community, if you will. Is there still just because I hear just that there's so much misogyny still. Is it still sort of prevalent in the gaming industry, or is that changing? Is that something that sort of existed, many years ago and it's sort of changing like everything else is? Or is it still sort of like boys are like, girls don't play video games, stay out of it. We're supposed to, beat you up and like throw you in the back of a car. And what was that game that they did that in?
Oh, Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. So, is that changing?
It's an interesting question. I think it is and it isn't. I think I've seen less. I remember when I was coming up, there was a whole fake gamer girl witch hunt. This idea that you would only play games to get clout or get attention or something like that. And then there was a sort of sense of you have to prove that you actually play, a very silly narrative that was happening when I was sort of becoming more of a public figure in games. That seems to have fallen away a little bit more, in my experience. I feel like there's less of a, you don't really play games, do you? Kind of an energy.
Yeah.
That said, it definitely still exists in terms of, I remember there was I think there was some sort of trailer for Horizon Forbidden West. And there was I think that it might have been a slight design change to Aloy.
Mm-hmm.
It was also just more photorealistic, like the engine had improved. And there was just a whole thread about, men complaining about the way she looked and why does she not look as hot and blah, blah, blah. There was that whole thing. So that, of course, happened. But
that's always fun.
It's always fun. But I do think the way that it's improved is that it's not exceptional as much anymore for there to be a female lead in a game.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It's kind of amazing. Because truly, whenever that was, when we started recording Zero Dawn, which was in 2014 or 15, I was really nervous because I was I was used to people trying to put women as a lead in a game, and then if it failed, blaming the fact that there was a female lead. And now it's, I was just at the BAFTAs and there were a number of games that were nominated that had female leads.
Yeah.
So there is a shift. But, it's I guess it's like anything right now, which is that the sort of old mentality likes to hold
Takes a
on
while.
for dear life. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things about you that I was aware of because it got press a few weeks ago. It's just something that is so prevalent in our industry right now. It's like both strikes were all about AI. It was like that was the thing that people were focused on. It seems to be such a conversation at all times.
Right.
What was it like with Aloy for you to see a synthesized version of the character and sort of not have had any involvement in that?
It was bizarre.
Yeah.
It's such a strange experience. I mean, I wonder if you relate to this as well. Being an actor where you put so much of who you are into this character.
Yeah.
But she didn't start with you and she doesn't end with you necessarily, right? Like it was sort of a stark reminder of I feel so connected to this character. I've put so much of myself into this character. I feel a lot of ownership over this character. And then at the end of the day, she as like an IP belongs to a company.
Yeah.
And they reached out to me to say like we didn't use any of your data and it was just for we have no, I forget exactly what they said. It was like it doesn't reflect active development, I think is what they said.
Yeah.
Like but it is, it was sort of, and why I did that video is like, this is a reminder though, that like, even if that's not my voice and it's not my facial data, it is a character that I'm uniquely associated with. And there's obvious interest in exploring this technology.
Right.
Why would they be testing it otherwise, you
Right.
know? And, we've said throughout the entire video game strike, and I think this was true for TV theatrical as well, that like, it's not an ask for a moratorium on AI. There isn't a desire to stop people from using a technology that could be useful.
Right.
I've talked to game developers that are like, it could make our workflow a lot easier. I'm like, amazing, great. Yeah. I love that for you. I would love for your workflow to be easier. The thing that we're scared of and that we're fighting against is this idea that we could possibly be replaced.
Yeah.
Wholesale, And I think there's some skepticism that like that would ever completely happen. But I think I think there are a lot of developers that like working with actors and they know what actors bring and they have no interest in fully replacing them. I do think there are developers that would try. Yeah. For cost saving or because they want a very specific thing. And, for me, any strike or any labor action, anything that a union does is to protect the most community that it can, It's to help people. For me, the big thing is like, I want this job to exist for people coming up. And a lot of my earlier work was in games where I was just doing little call outs and little barks,
Right.
like I would do 50 lines in a game or something. And that is the kind of thing that I worry about being replaced.
Yes.
And that's how people cut their teeth. That's how they meet people. That's how they learn how to be in a booth. That's how they learn to take direction, are those gigs.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have those, then how are we going to get our next great performers in this space if they don't get to have that experience? So yeah, for me, it's really about like, no one's asking you guys to not use this. We're just asking you to protect us. That's it.
When they showed you, did your reaction surprise them? Like, did they think that you would be more supportive of like the whole process and just more excited about seeing
that video?
That video?
Well, it was leaked.
Is that how it happened?
Yeah, it was leaked. So I don't think it was ever intended for public viewing. So they reached out to me after the leak to
Got it.
Yeah, explain.
Fun. That's fun. That's always fun. That's fun. It's it's strange. I have seen AI generated films.
Sure. Full films.
Full films.
Uh-huh.
And they're terrible.
Sure, right. Right.
But the fact that it's constantly evolving.
Right.
Every single day it's evolving.
Right.
The AI, film they made a year ago pales in comparison to the one they make tomorrow.
Right. Right. Right.
I know that the technology exists as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking people to not use it. I completely understand. But there is a difference, in my opinion,
Sure.
we talked about bringing soul to characters. I do not believe that an AI can realistically depict a feeling that only a human understands. Like for me, like I move my hands a lot when I'm playing a character.
Uh-huh.
If I have to sit very still, my hand moves.
Right.
Because that feeling of my fingers moving together calms my system down. An AI would never understand that.
Right.
But then that isn't an attribute that I've given to other characters that I've played.
Right.
Because if you can't make it go away, make it part of the character, right?
Right, right, right.
Those are little things that actors bring to performance that you could mimic.
Right.
But I don't think it would ever understand. And then comes out of an anxious place, which does AI understand anxiety?
Right.
Like, so all of these things that go into creating character, I just don't think that it could ever fully get to.
No, and I think I 100% agree. And I think what people that want to use AI to replace performance, because I've seen comments online of people being like, I can't afford an actor, so I want to just generate a performance. It is it's an ignorance about what the craft is. It's an ignorance about what an actor brings.
Yes.
Like I've now been in a place where I've produced things and I've cast.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre as an actor to be like,
on the other side of it?
On the other side of it.
It's very strange.
It's really been helpful for me and affirming as an actor, because you always hear that thing of like, well, you were great, but you just weren't right for the part. And there's, I don't know about you, but I'm always like, yeah, okay, sure.
Thanks.
Thanks. That's bullshit, but okay. But then being on the position of like actually casting, you realize like, oh no, that's actually very true.
Yeah.
We saw so many auditions for, the show that I co-show ran, Side Quest. We were just constantly casting because it was an anthology, and it was a different cast every single episode.
Wow.
And so I was looking at so many auditions, and there were so many times that I saw a performance from an actor that I really loved that just wasn't right for the character. And it became really fascinating to see how 10 people will make completely different choices for the same script.
Isn't that interesting?
It's fascinating because, and I remember speaking to an actress a long time ago when I was coming up, and she told me the sort of adage that I think actors hear, which is like, don't try to be someone else, just do you, because there's only one you and there's only the choices that you're going to make, which sounds trite, but it is true. And I think what people don't realize when they don't work with actors and don't understand what actors bring is that there is no performance that you can make an aggregate and then just have it mean the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you don't know is the actor that you might cast for something could have an experience that directly informs the character.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are characters that I've played, a popular character of mine, Chloe in Life is Strange. She discovers like halfway through the game that someone that she loves is dead. And I had just gone through a loss myself. And I put all of that into that scene. AI can't do that. There's, that character is, when I auditioned for her, I very deliberately, because she could come off, in my opinion, she could come off as an angsty teen. And I didn't want that. I wanted her to feel complex, and I wanted her to feel, obviously defiant, but also that there was a sadness to her.
Yeah.
And that is a choice I made and a perspective I took that you can't get by just putting in something into a generative system.
Right.
And I think people don't realize how much because it's invisible labor. Like people just see the outcome of the performance and they go, okay, I could do that, or a computer could do that. It's all these like soft skills, or, that people are like, well, I could direct a movie. And it's like, but have you directed before?
But how hard is that?
Yeah, but how do you know how hard it is?
You just take a camera and
yeah, right, exactly.
It's not hard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like writing.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I could write. And maybe you could. I'm not saying you can't. But it's not as simple as put in thing into a system and have it generate it.
It's incredibly difficult. And that's why, so many people want to do it and so few people are given the opportunity and the gift to be able to do it.
Right.
Because it is very difficult.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to create something for yourself, but that will appeal to a broader audience, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're also artists and we love to just create as well.
Right.
I think most artists would do it for free if someone else paid for our house.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it is really easy to look at a finished product and say, oh yeah, well, I would have made the exact same choices.
Right.
You wouldn't have, not on the day. Not with, an entire crew around you and what you went through the day before or the month before in your own personal life that came into that performance. And you're working on in a studio that has an active runway next door and planes are taking off constantly, which gave your character a tick. Like,
right.
You don't know that you would have made those choices. Like, it's just, that's why it's so special to when you find somebody who is just so good at what they do.
Right.
It's really special.
Yeah, and they make it look easy, which is I think why then people are like, well,
it's easy.
It's easy.
Yeah.
And it seems inevitable when you don't see all the labor that went into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm seeing it happen too with people that aren't. I assumed that creative fields would be the most vulnerable, but I'm seeing it now with even friends that are programmers.
Yeah.
There are, I have a friend that works in education and his boss was like, recently said, like, could we just use an AI system and like get rid of this section of programmers because we could save money that way? And it's just happening everywhere.
Yeah.
And again, it's this thing of like, when you don't know how hard it is, you don't understand the amount of skill and the amount of expertise and the amount of knowledge that it takes to do it.
I mean, I could deliver a baby.
Right.
How hard is it? You just catch it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's no skill.
Yeah, she's doing the work. So
no amount of medical degrees are needed.
Right.
You just say push.
Yeah.
And you catch it.
Just put a baseball mitt on and
that's it. You don't even need that.
Yeah,
right. Just take your shirt. Just catch it like,
just catch it like this.
It's totally fine. Speaking of, was this the first time you'd show run a show?
Yeah, it was my first time show running.
Yeah. What did you learn?
I learned that I knew it was hard. So I didn't learn that it was hard. But it wasn't as much the I think I thought that maybe there would be like secret issues that I wouldn't have been able, pardon me, I wouldn't have been able to predict that would be particularly difficult, but it really was just the volume of stuff.
Yeah.
Like there were all things that I think I'd done before or had to sort of navigate before because I've been in writers' rooms, I've directed and I've acted. And so it really felt like a culmination of all of those skills and then just volume.
Yeah.
So it was like a constant stream of answering emails, answering questions, looking at casting, going into the writer's room. So it was just pace more than anything. But I also learned that it's totally possible to run a show and not be an asshole. Is what I learned, which is a nice thing to have affirmed. I mean, we had, there were 3 of us running it. I don't know how one person does that job. It's so much work.
It's so much work.
It's so much work. So I feel like you either have to have like a, support around you that you really, really trust, or you divide and conquer. But it was definitely stressful sometimes and it was definitely fast paced, but we all had a great time still. Mm-hmm. So it was affirming to be in that position and go, oh, right, this is hard and it's stressful, but it can still be fun and everyone can still be kind to each other.
Yeah.
So I don't really see any excuse for anyone to be an asshole anymore. I'm like, we did it and we weren't an assholes.
No, I think that's It's a very old Hollywood type of thing. This sort of bull in a china shop attitude.
Yeah.
It's really not acceptable anymore.
Yeah.
And sort of the industry is sort of getting rid of people that are assholes, if you will. You know what I mean? Did the opportunity come to you, or did you seek it out?
It was an interesting way that it happened because, you know, it was a spinoff of Mythic Quest. Yeah. And in Mythic Quest, we did, every season, we had standalone episodes that ended up being sort of our most popular episodes. And so Katee McElhenney, who's Rob McElhenney's sister, and also was a writer on Mythic Quest all throughout its run, as I was. They were trying to figure out what the standalone would be for season 3, and just filled up a board with ideas. Mm-hmm. And we're like, oh, this could be its own show. And so Katee approached me and was like, would you want to do this with me, basically?
Yeah.
And then we approached John Hal Harris, who is also a writer on Mythic Quest since the beginning. And so the three of us banded together and did it together, which was great because we'd worked together since season 1 and got along super well and really respected each other's sensibilities, and all brought very different things, I think, to the project. So, it was a really great experience.
Good.
Yeah.
Is there going to be more?
I would assume not, probably.
No?
Yeah, since Mythic Quest has unfortunately been canceled, so I don't think that they would. It'd be interesting for them to make more of a spinoff.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, it'd be funny.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, but this other one just keeps going. So I think it was just the 4 episodes, but I'm happy it got to happen because really, like, the strike happened like in the middle of production. So we were expecting to get canceled back then. So the fact that we got to finish what we had started was great.
Huh. What are you working on now?
I'm writing a book.
Okay.
And there's a show that I have had in my brain for like 10 years that I finally kind of forced myself to make called I'm Happier Here, which is it's Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but for adults, basically.
Is it animated?
So it's live action, but with puppets.
Okay, so very, very similar to Mr. Rogers.
Yes, except there are swears and sex jokes, and
but it should have been.
Yeah, right, exactly. But yeah, I've just, I feel like, as we were talking about earlier, I think, there's more conversation around mental health for kids. There's more like EQ conversations, which is amazing. And I do think for adults and for people in my generation and older, we all sort of had to figure out mental health by ourselves. And I feel like I just feel like you get kicked out of the proverbial nest when you're like 26. And they're like, you got this, right? And none of us got it. I don't feel like anyone's got it.
No.
So there's all sorts of stuff that, I think when you're younger, you're like, well, when I get to a certain age, I'll just figure it out. And you never have stuff figured out. So I've always thought that it would be nice to have, for myself even, like support in some way of, what is it like to discover when you're 33 that you have ADHD, and like, what do you do about that? How do you, or like having a late in life autism diagnosis, or
which is becoming so common now.
So common.
Especially in women, I've seen.
I feel like it's just becoming a lot more, I don't know, there's just more, and women obviously I think are taught to mask autism at a younger age. So I just feel like there's an expanded awareness of this kind of thing and a desire for like support and like to feel seen. And I remember when I was younger, I had really bad OCD on top of having anxiety, and I had no idea what was happening to me. And it wasn't until I found a forum of other people that had OCD that I was like, oh, that's what this is. So it was so helpful to me to have that affirmed that I've always wanted to do something that can provide the same thing for other people, but have it be funny and not heavy and comforting. So yeah, we filmed an episode of it and are finishing it up, and then I'm gonna either take it out into the world and try to get it onto something or make it myself, and we'll see what happens with it. But I'm really excited to be working on something that I have wanted to make for so long and really care about the subject.
Yeah. Why the title?
It's something I've always said on social media, strangely. I just at one point was like, felt the instinct to say, I think back when I was on Twitter, to just tweet, "I'm happy you're here."
Yeah.
And I was really surprised at how much people responded to that. Like, I had so many responses of people being like, "I really needed to hear this today." And I was really surprised. Like, I was concerned that people would think it was like trite or sort of saccharine. But anytime, and I do it periodically, just when I think of like, things are hard right now, maybe this is a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
And inevitably I have people like responding to it saying like, "I really needed to hear this. Thank you."
What could possibly be going on that's hard right now?
I know. I don't know what people are complaining about.
I don't understand at all. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's
fine.
What if, in a perfect world, what kind of episodes do you see coming after?
The sort of, I guess, sad thing about it, but it's sad, but it's also like just the fact of life, I guess, is that there's like no shortage of topics. So, I think the ones that are foremost in my mind, I think, is that I'd want to do an episode about depression, one about addiction, one about ADHD, and one about grief, or like the first up. But then I would love to do stuff about like divorce.
Yeah.
Or even things like OCD, obviously. So like diagnosed conditions that maybe people are like, "What is this? I just got this diagnosis. What does this mean?" Or they have a loved one.
Yeah.
That's another, I think, goal of the show as well, is to like, if you're going through something and you don't know how to talk about it, that rather than like trying to put it in your own words, you could send an episode and be like, "This is what it's like for me when I have a panic attack. This is what it's like for me when I'm in a depressive slump." And so to help other people see you, but then also just like big life events like, that adults go through, like, divorce or postpartum depression or,
Menopause.
Exactly. Yeah. Or menstrual. I don't think I started learning about the actual phases of a menstrual cycle and what they do to me until recently, until like a couple of years ago.
Yeah. No, it's this is not something that we talked about. I don't remember.
Right.
I mean, I remember my mom talking to me about periods in the sense that you're going to get one.
Right. It's going to happen.
Here are the pads.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And then ultimately I ended up getting my period at a swim meet.
Ugh.
And had to borrow a tampon from someone on my team and figure out how to put a tampon in right before a race.
Oh,
literally,
what?
like the finals of a race.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And you only had the one. So it's not like you could
Practice,
right?
Yeah. And I remember it being big too.
Well, sure.
Like, and being like,
it was like a super and you were like,
someone's like, I'm little. And
yeah,
they're like,
right.
Here you go. And you're like, what do I do with that?
Yeah, right.
Like that was like, there's no, and then like the picture. Like,
Right.
I don't know many people who stand up and put a foot up on a toilet to get a tampon in. Have you ever seen someone like a fucking stork in the, like one leg up trying to get a tampon in?
No.
Like, I've never looked under a thing and seen like just one leg in a stall. No one does that.
No,
like,
you crouch and hope for the best.
you just figure it out.
Yeah, right.
You figure it out.
Yeah.
Is your anxiety better now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What kind of coping mechanisms have you found that work for you?
I've been in therapy for a minute now, which helps.
A lot.
I found a medication that's good for me, which is great because for a long time I was nervous to take medication, and I actually remember speaking to a friend of mine who's also a showrunner, and he is on I think he's on a depression medication because I had this fear of like it's going to change my brain. I'm going to be different if I take this.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's just like you turn the volume down on your brain. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's like if the static in your brain is at a 9, it takes it down to a 6. And when he said it that way, I was like, oh, that sounds nice, actually. I'd like the volume in my brain to go down a little bit. And when I started taking anxiety meds, that was my experience, was that like, if I was at a 10, all of a sudden I was at a 7. And it was subtle. It wasn't like, because like my husband has ADHD and he just recently started medicating for it. And I think he was nervous as well of like, how is this going to affect me? And it actually calms him down because it's not like, he's a kid in college taking Ritalin for fun.
Snorting it for shits and giggles.
Yeah, for shits and giggles. He has ADHD, so it makes his system regulate when he takes it.
Yeah.
So that was a nice thing to just sort of like take the edge off of life a little bit. But then also, I doing therapy and meditating and stuff like that has really helped address like the underlying stuff with anxiety. And now I manage it a lot more by just being having a lot more awareness around it and being a lot more mindful of like, I try not to shove things down anymore. When I was younger, I really was like, work as hard as possible, never stop, And now I like journal every morning. I check in with myself. I meditate. I reach out to people. I report things. I talk to my husband about it. Like I move through things now rather than just avoiding them at all cost.
Journaling changed my life. I've started doing it. It hasn't been that long. It's been 5 months.
Still,
but I made a
huge.
conscious decision to wake up every single morning at 5 a.m. before my kids and write in my journal for an hour.
That's amazing.
And I haven't missed a day. And some days I literally just write, this is so fucking stupid.
Right.
I don't want to be writing in this stupid journal.
Right.
And then by the end of my, 3 pages, I'm like, wow, that was really great. Okay, great. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
totally.
I always end it with, gotta go poop. Like, that's how I end it. Like, okay, journaling's done for the day.
Gotta go poop.
Gotta go morning constitutional. Like,
I love that. I love that too I think that was another thing for me in a similar way when I started. Because I think I thought before when I would journal, that I had to journal like a certain way.
Yeah.
You had to do it like I needed to be like a Jane Austen character.
Need to be pretty.
Yeah. Versus, doing the thing of like this, I fucking hate this. I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like just being honest. I discovered recently, I was talking to my husband about it, that like I've started just genuinely whining. Like a kid sometimes.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't want to do this. And I like really just let myself do it. And then it like passes through and I'm like, okay, I can do it now. Like there's just something about journaling really honestly, or just having a moment where I'm like, I'm going to have a tantrum.
Yeah.
I'm full on just going to have a tantrum right now and then I'll be okay. And then
I don't know what it is. Like we're so sensitive and supportive of children when they're going through something, especially now. I mean, maybe we weren't back when we were children, but like, when my daughter's having a tantrum, we're like, it's okay. You get it out.
Yeah.
You cry, you do whatever you need to do to get it out. And you let us know when you feel, when it's moved through you and you're ready to talk about it.
Right.
We just let her. No one says that about me. Like, I would love to just go lock myself in a car and just start sobbing and have my husband just knock and be like, you just let me know when you're done.
Right.
Like, let it out. Like, I got you.
Right.
And you just come inside when you feel up to it.
That's really, such a big impetus behind I'm Happy You're Here, is because I do think adults deserve that.
Yeah.
I really do think that like, there's a part of us that doesn't grow up.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to you when you were young, like there is a tiny version of you that's still in there somewhere that does need to sob in a car or does need to have a tantrum and that part of you influences so much of what kind of adult you are, whether you want it to or not, So I think this sort of acknowledgement that like, we all need support. We all still need, there is a kid in all of us that still needs tending to, that doesn't know how to fucking like, they're supposed to do taxes. It's like, there's that meme that's like, pictures of Pooh Bear with his like hand stuck in a jar of honey. That's like, this is who you're asking to go to a 9-to-5 job. This is who you're asking to do taxes or like have a kid or be a parent, Like
the moment someone handed me our daughter, I was like, we go home now?
Yeah, right. This is mine?
Like with this?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
And being the age now of like,
Yeah.
I have friends that are having kids and I'm like, I saw you get so drunk one day and like fall downstairs. And now you're responsible for a human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
To not fall downstairs.
Yeah. You're the
Yeah.
same person, but now
Yeah.
you have to
is
keep that thing alive.
the weirdest thing ever. So Mythic Quest is coming to an end. You talked about it being canceled.
Right.
But you're going back and reshooting the ending?
So when I directed the season and now series finale, and we shot 2 endings because we weren't sure if we were going to get renewed or not.
Yeah.
That was sort of the case every single season. We were like, well, we'll see if we come back. And so, so this one we decided to shoot 2 endings. So there was one that is currently on the platform, which is a sort of cliffhanger, really big moment happens. And knowing now that this is the last season, they're going back and patching it like a video game to the other ending. Yeah, which is an interesting. We've done that once before with the show, where I think it's in the first season. There's a moment where F. Murray Abraham's character is shown like receiving an award, and then we did a backstory episode where a different actor played young CW, and they actually went back to that episode and replaced that picture with that actor.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we've done it once before in the show.
But that's the kind of stuff that AI can help with.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the tool.
That's the tool, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, the ending gets changed out. But now it's just going to be more of a conclusive, more of a bow on the series. Whereas the one that premiered was very much not a button.
Yeah.
It was very much an explosion of the main character's dynamic. So yeah, it's I'm glad that we were able to do that. Because I think, it's hard to be bummed about it in a way because we got 4 great seasons of TV. And I think this season was a really, really good one. And I think the ending that's going to come out is a really nice one for Ian and Poppy as characters.
Yeah.
It's I think it will feel satisfying to people.
Did you get to direct the new ending?
Yeah. So I think we shot that one first, and then we shot the cliffhangery one after that. So it was just sort of sitting, waiting to see if it was going to get put in, basically. Yeah.
Is there because you do so much, like direct, write, like voiceover, like, I mean, there's there's so much. Is there one of those specialties that feels more like home to you at this point?
I mean, they scratch such different parts of my brain. So it's hard to say. I mean, yeah, they're so different. Like, most of the writing I do is in a room.
Yeah.
So it feels a bit like when you're in a really great room, it almost feels like a bit like a hive mind where you're like trying to all solve a really difficult puzzle together. And then it's very cerebral.
Yeah.
And then acting is very not cerebral for me.
Right.
It's very somatic and emotion focused and instinct focused. I mean, writing is instinct focused as well, but so it almost feels like a difference between like brain and heart sometimes, So I guess it depends on my mood. Sometimes if I'm like, I'd love to just solve a puzzle right now, then, it's writing.
Yeah.
And then if I feel like I want to be more like literally embodied, then acting calls to me more. And then directing is interesting because directing to me is, especially for TV, is really playful because you have these people that, have been in, I directed an episode of It's Always Sunny for the new season, and those folks have been in those roles for so many years now.
Yeah.
So that feels almost a bit like it's on rails and you kind of just throw things out every so often. And it's very playful. It's very like fun to just sort of try different things in a machine that's like very, very well oiled.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing directing on Mythic Quest, where getting to support the writing that I helped be a part of. And then I loved all the actors and all the crew, and just getting to like sort of mess around and see what would happen if I gave them different direction was really fun. So I guess directing maybe feels like a marriage of those two things a little bit. Like I bounce back and forth between those different types of brains.
Yeah.
It's a very long, non-committal answer to your question.
It's people ask me all the time what I like more, like acting on camera or voiceover work, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like there are certain days that I like each one more.
Right.
But I feel like they both are sort of like this symbiotic thing that each of those crafts sort of benefits the other.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could never pick. Like if they were like, you could do one and only one.
It'd be hard.
It would be really hard.
Yeah.
It would be very hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that it's coming to an end. It's always hard to say goodbye to a show that you enjoy spending time with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's sort of, it obviously has a wonderful audience and a phenomenal crew that you continue to work with Rob.
Yeah.
Glenn was a neighbor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Glenn is hysterical.
He's so funny.
Glenn's so wonderful.
Yeah, he's so great.
I thought he hated me for like the first 6 months. Like he's just so Glenn.
Yes, he's very Glenn.
Until I felt like I needed to slide a note over that was like, do you like me? Check yes.
Just check yes or no.
Because we hang out as friends.
Right.
I just need to know. I need a little bit of validation here, Glenn. But it's a phenomenal crew to be friends with as well. Just in the sense that there's so much creativity and
totally
they're constantly, in motion. It seems like.
Yeah, they're always generating stuff.
Yeah.
Rob is like the most prolific person I think I've ever met in my life. It's really wild.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
This has been really great.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hindsight. I am Katee Sackhoff, and I am joined by my Jeph Porter.
We're merging into one now.
We're merging. We're becoming the same person. It's,
Well, you talked a little bit on this episode about something that we all already were kind of the same person with the cryonic stuff. You talked about your little documentary and my little documentary that I made years before we ever knew each other. So
yeah,
the evidence is already there. I
just read an article where a mom of a horrible tragedy lost, I believe, her 12-year-old child, and is either doing a GoFundMe or she's petitioning the insurance company to cryopreserve her son, with the hopes of, technology advancing and bringing him back.
Have they already froze him though?
No, I don't. So I don't quite understand. Maybe he's in a coma. I actually didn't read it. I just saw the headline. I was like, holy shit.
So he hasn't passed on yet.
I don't know. Probably shouldn't have brought it up. We need to fact check the shit out of
We'll
this.
fact check. We're kind of going fast and loose today. We haven't really prepped as much as we normally do for these.
No,
so
because
we'll see
we
how this
had an interview lined up and they didn't show up.
So we're just like, let's do a hindsight. So you guys are getting the raw, unfiltered.
Didn't lose hindsight. I mean, why not? Why not?
At least I did listen to the interview back though, so I'm at least familiar with that, and I have some notes on it that we can follow here. So we'll be all right.
Was it as bad as it felt like in my head, Jeph?
No, you were great in this interview, and I also thought you were great in the Brent interview. I mean, towards the end of it, you could tell you were fading, but this one you were. I think this was before it had fully.
I don't know, because I ended it so abruptly that you literally said to me, hey, Katee, do you maybe want to ask about
That's true.
Side Quest? And I was like, yeah.
About
that would be a really great thing to ask about.
About Mythic Quest, actually.
Oh, Mythic Quest.
Because the Mythic Quest is over with now. And hopefully we've edited this episode to where this seamlessly feels like you asked that question at the right time. Because that is the plan. when we edit the episode, but it hasn't been edited yet. So
good to know, because that's what happened. Like I was, that was the first time I felt like I was going to vomit. And so I just ended the interview. I knew we'd gotten to an hour. I looked at my phone and I was like, okay, we've hit an hour.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. But I thought it was important to talk about Mythic Quest because it is sort of I think there's probably a lot of fans of it out there, but it's always been a show that's kind of like been the little show that could, like every season, it felt like they weren't going to come back. And then they would take longer and longer breaks between seasons. And then, when it canceled, it was one of those things where it was like, well, that's unfortunate, but
we understand.
We understand, we
saw it coming every single season.
Every single season, yes.
So who was the actor whose show it was that was from Always Sunny?
Rob McElhenney. McElhenney, yeah.
His sister is the one that wrote this with Ashly.
She was, I think, part of the writing team on it.
Yes. Yeah, because in my mind, I was thinking, like, does Caitlin Olsen go by Kate McElhenney?
There's a lot of Kates, Katies, and Caitlins happening there.
Right?
It is kind of funny. My thought was like, I would feel strange if I was married to someone who had the same name as my sister.
Maybe. I wonder if that's why he calls her Kate. Because I wonder if he calls her Caitlin, like on purpose.
Yeah. Maybe they're all like, this is better for us if it's, you're Kate, I'm Caitlin.
I don't think I could have ever married someone with the same name as like my father or... Yeah. It's funny, not to bring up someone else and like their private stuff. But like,
here we go.
Michael Trucco and Sandra Hess. Michael's real name is Eddie.
Oh.
But she had dated an Eddie and refused to call him Eddie. She calls him Michael. But Michael was his stage name. So, yeah.
Did this ever come up with Eddie Olmos?
I'm sure it did. Yeah. Because we were somewhere the other day and someone was like, oh yeah, your name's Eddie. And I was like, yeah, Michael Trucco's name is Eddie too. And like everyone was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider a stage name?
I did. My first agency in Portland, Oregon, when I was like 14, tried to convince me that Sackhoff wouldn't be a good name. So she literally had me take her maiden name, which is MacLeod or like McLeod or something like that. So like on my headshots, it literally says Kate McLeod.
Kate McLeod.
And I was like 14.
Yeah.
And then I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, they're like, hailing from Scotland, it's Kate McLeod.
I know.
Do you still have those headshots?
I don't know. I found, oh my Lord in heaven. So I have been going through stuff that my parents were like, get this out of our house, right? And I found all of my first headshots. Like from when I was like 11 years old, and it says Katee Sackhoff on it.
Katee Sackhoff. You were still going. Is it Katee then?
No, I think it's IE.
Yeah, because you're a Catherine, right?
I'm Catherine.
Yeah, with a K though, right?
Yeah, KATHRYN.
Catherine McLeod.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine? They would have been like, I would have shown up talking like me, and they would have been like, well, this doesn't work. This is not what we thought we were getting. We thought we were getting the fucking Lucky Charms guy.
Sackhoff has got such a, with that K, it sticks in your brain. That's why I would feels like the advice would be, Sackhoff is such a, Katee Sackhoff it's a powerful sounding name.
Well, it's also like, I think there's like 9 of us in the entire world.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, there's none of us. Like, why would you not want to be a Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
He probably got that advice too, and he probably ignored it.
Probably.
Yeah. You don't get, if you had been Catherine McLeod, you probably would have had to have on IMDb that little like parentheses that says like 2 or 3 or like...
Yes, and I'm like on IMDb because there's so many of us.
Yeah, like that's what happens when somebody has the same name. They put like a number next to them. It's like
a Roman numeral.
Yeah, but not for you because there's no other Katee Sackhoff.
There is not. You know what though? What really ticks my hide is that
I've never heard that phrase before.
chaps my hide.
Ticks my hide.
Really ticks my hide.
Okay.
Is that I am not the only Katee with 2 E's.
Yeah.
There's some other chica who is Katee. She's like a dancer or something.
But she's not a Sackhoff.
Well, no.
There are other Jeph porters out there. There's other Jeph porters that spell their name like me.
See, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well,
like I
you should just add another E.
Because here's the thing. I came up with the spelling of this.
Yeah.
So like, you're 10 years younger than me. Did you copy me?
Maybe they're a fan. When they were 10 years old, they were a fan.
Maybe they stole the spelling of my name. Maybe they
Yeah.
did. Or maybe they had the exact same thought that I had. I don't know.
Well, at least there's not another Katee Sackhoff, and there never will be.
There never will be. There never will be. I also, I was at my daughter's gymnastics the other day, and the father introduced his son, and they have the same exact name. Like, I thought that was done. I thought people were done.
Done with that?
Naming, if your name is Edward Peterson the second, I thought we were done going, what's your baby's name? This is Edward Peterson the third.
Yeah.
Really?
I have my dad's as my middle name.
Yeah,
so.
my brother does too, but you don't have the exact same name, right?
That's true.
What was that about?
It's a legacy
lineage?
thing. I think it comes from it's a nobility thing that got passed down to people. I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it was oh, you are fertile enough that you keep having boys. And so it's you get down to King Eddie the 25th.
Yeah.
And well, obviously everyone was shooting winners there.
Yeah. King Eddie the 25th with the soft teeth and the bulbous head.
Yeah.
And
you're all dead by 27.
That chin that just melds into your neck.
Thank God there's a surgery for that now.
One thing I wanted to, on my notes, I'm just looking at our notes so we stay on track here, is she talked about how there was that, you talked a lot about women in the video game industry and stuff, and I wanted to ask you one other thing, but first she mentioned how there was an image of Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn who the people were freaking out about because of her perceived, I can't remember how she described it, but what it is there was this, she had facial hair according to people, but this is what it looked like. What it is they just enhanced the images, the graphics enough that you can see the light reflecting some of the hair on her face.
But FYI, everybody has facial hair. I have that blonde hair on my face. Everyone has hair on their face, people.
Yeah.
If you pinch your cheeks and you go like this, you can pull teeny, tiny hairs. We're mammals.
Yeah. That's the thing I think that she was talking about, because it's such a male-dominated space that those types of things happen where, men who don't interact with women basically think that women don't have hair on their face, and it's no, they do. We're all apes. We all have hair all over our body.
They think that women don't poop, we don't have BO, and we don't have facial hair.
Yeah, you're just an anime waifu.
Right? Yeah, I do find that quite interesting that with the rise of social media, especially in filters and things like that number one, that men had this image of what women are. And number two, that women actually feed into it.
Yeah.
That we continue to perpetuate this, that of course this is what we look like. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well.
It is I think that's the interesting thing about the video game world, is that it is, as Ashly was talking about, it, until very recently, there weren't a lot of games where you actually got to play as a woman. I think the only notable one was Tomb Raider, and how they sold that game.
Oh, and Mortal Kombat when I was little.
True, you got to play as a character, but in these sort of big narrative-driven games, it wasn't common until recently to really have that. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn was one of them. Last of Us was another one. That was actually a big thing with Last of Us, not to keep going back to Last of Us, but in the first game, you play as the male character for at least the majority of the game. And then in the second game, you're the female character. And there was a lot of pushback on that for other reasons that I won't get into that get into spoiler territory.
I would be curious to know what the statistics are of male and female gamers. You know, like where that line is, like the percentage of male gamers to female.
I think the knee-jerk reaction is that, there's not as many women, but I bet that it's more than you would think. Women who play games.
And I wonder if the reason why there isn't more women is because there aren't games to play as a woman.
Exactly.
Like I don't want to play as a dude. Yeah. I mean, I honestly don't care. I played games as guys all the time.
Yeah. Were you?
It never made me like go, man, I don't identify because I don't have, a penis.
Well, then back in your day, it was like Miss Pac-Man, and you were like, finally, some representation.
I know. I was like, that's a cute bow.
Yeah.
Exactly. Why is she not as fast?
Yeah.
Why does it feel like my game is stunted?
Yeah. Why does she get less dots than Mr. Pac-Man?
Right?
Yeah.
I know. I feel like I get less life here.
Yeah.
I feel like, right? Like the ghosts are like, why are they coming after me?
Yeah. Why does she keep apologizing?
to the ghost every time.
Every time they try to eat her, she apologizes.
I know, it's really true. She's also a little Canadian. She runs up to those cherries and she's like, "Oh no, sorry, you go."
Yeah, I'm so sorry. She talked about the perception of a fake gamer girl, and I was wondering if you ever encountered that, not in the gaming thing, but in the sci-fi space and like the action space, like because you've talked about how you grew up watching Star Trek and you were a fan of Alien and Sigourney Weaver and all that stuff. But did you ever get any pushback? People being like, "Oh, but you're a girl. You don't really like those things."
Oh, still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still, it exists in the Star Wars fandom as well.
Right.
Where, and I believe we talked about this a bit with Ashley Eckstein, right?
Yeah.
That there was not representation in the marketing of the products afterwards for women.
Right.
And there was this assumption that women didn't go to cons. So why would you have, Star Wars dresses and things like that? Because, maybe if a guy's a fan, he's buying it for his girlfriend, but not really. Like girls don't watch Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so there was this huge market and Ashley came in and she really, with her universe and fucking dominated.
Yeah.
And just came in and her shit's everywhere. It's all over the parks. It's actually, it couldn't have happened to a nicer, harder working person, but her stuff is everywhere because she looked around as a fan of genre, as a person who goes to conventions and was like, where are the cute clothes for me? Why is everything just an oversized t-shirt with Darth Vader on the front of it?
I love the idea that somebody was like, no way women are going to like dressing up and putting on cute clothes.
I know. And no way women want Star Wars, inspired makeup.
Yeah. That's just
in comes,
ridiculous.
Urban Decay and MAC, and all of a sudden it's and Charlotte Tilbury, I think. There's so much of a market. Speaking of, not to get completely off on a tangent now, I was talking with a brand guy the other day, and we were having this long discussion about Formula One and how Formula One's big number one sponsor this season is Louis Vuitton.
Oh, wow.
It is the smartest decision. They took over for Rolex. Smartest decision that Louis Vuitton could have made. This sport is bigger than any other sport in the entire world. There are more eyes on Formula One than anything else. And the female younger audience is growing so substantially that why would you not pay billions of dollars to have Louis Vuitton on everything? It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because there's this acknowledgement finally that women like games, they like sci-fi, they like sports, they like all of this stuff. There is an audience and women spend money on this shit.
Yeah. That's the thing, even in the podcast world, women spend the most money on products and services and things.
I know. That's why it sucks that all of you guys out there are men. Just kidding.
It doesn't suck.
Just kidding. I'm kidding, you guys. I'm kidding. Go get your wives.
Tell your wives about skincare and whatever ads we have on this podcast. Tell them masterclass. Tell your wives about masterclass.
I know, it's so true, right?
Yeah.
We have, but it's the truth. Like women spend money, and that's why it's that sort of eat, pray, love thing where, women don't go see movies. Actually, women love going to see movies.
We need
you
to
just have to make the movie for us.
We need to stop saying women don't do this thing, because it's like treating women as a monolith is the problem. Because it's like, believe it or not, women exist in various different shapes, sizes, personality types,
Belief
just as many.
systems.
Yeah, just as many as men, actually.
I know.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we have any, do you got any emails? We should get into the mail sack, Jeph.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Mailsack, we're going to the Mailsack. Mailsack, why are we calling it Mailsack?
I didn't dance on that one.
Yeah, I thought you were leaving and going to come back in like big fashion dancing.
A 30-second pee or something.
Yeah.
No, I was looking at my phone to see if we...
Well, if people want to email us, Katee.
Right. If you guys want to email us, send those comments and those questions to the sackoffshow@gmail.com. We really do love to hear from you, and we look at those emails. Jeph most specifically looks at those emails.
And I look at all of them, and if we don't read your email or we don't respond, it doesn't mean we didn't get your email.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a lot of just nice comments from people saying nice things, and sometimes I'll just forward those to Katee as the nice comments. And so thank you for sending those. Those are very nice.
Any good ones in there, Jeph?
Well, we got one from Michael here that I could read you if you want.
Go for it.
Yeah, we're doing this off the cuff today, so I don't have the document prepared for Katee to read, so I will read. This is from Michael. He says, "Dear Katee, please don't see this as your typical fan email. I have recently discovered we share several coincidences.
Ooh.
Yes, I have enjoyed watching your work, but I am reaching out to you because of the coincidences in our lives. Now, at 75 years old, I thought it would be fun to let you know how. So here it goes. 1, I also graduated from Sunset High School, but in 1968, quite a bit before you were born. I only spent a year and a half at Sunset after transferring from a Catholic boys' school outside Philadelphia in 1967.
Wow.
Number 2, I too was a competitive swimmer at Sunset.
Wow.
Number 3, we both eventually ended up in Los Angeles. I graduated SC in 1972. While at SC, I became an All-American and was a member of the USC LAAC 4x100 meter free relay team, which set a world record in 1970.
Holy shit.
You became a you became a successful actress. In our separate ways, we shared success. I am now retired. Your journey continues. And the 4th coincidence is one of my close friends, Dan Avila, dated your next door neighbor, Penny. Do you know? Does that make any sense to you? Your next door neighbor, Penny?
Penny. My next door neighbor, where?
Well, it doesn't say.
It doesn't say. It doesn't say. We moved around a lot as a family.
Mm-hmm.
So, Penny. I have an aunt, Penny. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And later, he summarizes this for you, but he just puts Penny and then he puts in quotes last name, like the word last name or the words last name. Doesn't actually say the last name.
Oh, because he doesn't know her last name.
Yeah. So.
Got it.
Penny was your neighbor, apparently.
Huh.
You don't know a Dan Avila?
No, but I can ask my parents. My parents would probably know if I had a Penny, and it'll probably come to me. I'll probably go, oh, yeah.
It's a neighbor in LA, I think, though, maybe.
Oh, in LA?
He didn't specify, but that's what I was led to believe. One of my close friends, Dan Avila, dated your next door neighbor, Penny, but maybe it was in Portland or wherever.
I don't know. I don't know, but that's cool.
All right.
I don't know. Elaborate.
Thanks, Michael.
Here's a question from one of the patrons from Steve. It said, okay, question. Do women in the industry prefer the term actress or actor? Is it a personal preference? I meet a lot of celebrities at cons and I try my hardest to be respectful. I never want to offend. So please let me know if there is a preference and what is yours. I think it's just one of those weird things where I don't find it offensive if somebody calls me an actress at all, but I do call myself an actor.
Yeah.
I think that it's, I don't really know exactly where that comes from, but I would imagine it comes from back in the day when women were played by men on stage and where everyone was an actor. And then when women finally started acting, they were still actors, maybe? I don't know. I don't really know where it comes from, but I've always referred to myself as an actor.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a holdover from a more gendered time where there was always a feminization of certain words, you know. You had a waiter and a waitress.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what's so funny is I would never call a female waiter a waiter. I would call them a waitress. Isn't that funny?
Would you ever call a male waiter a waitress?
No.
Try that out sometime, since you're so woke.
It's just what I need. That's just what I need is to misgender somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I answered this already, but I actually found that this was a really interesting question from Jake over on the Patreon. He said, it's a question about Brent's episode. He said, I had an interesting technique for memorization. Basically, this is what Brent said. He said, I don't sleep until I can do the lines at least once. And I mentioned also that I've lost a lot of sleep doing the lines. And he said he wonders if lack of sleep implications are noticeable on set, or are actors really good by necessity at powering through with the power of coffee or something like that. It's funny. Lack of sleep is a huge problem in our industry. Because number one, yes, dialogue definitely goes into it. There's a lot that actors do to memorize while we're working, when we're not working. It's an all-encompassing thing, as it should be. There's a lot of unprepared actors. But not only that, you only get a certain amount of turnaround every day. What I mean by that is from the moment you finish your day to the moment you come back the next day. Has to be 12 hours. And it's not door to door. It's the moment they say you're wrapped to the moment you have a call time. So if you live an hour away from set, your 12-hour day or 16-hour day just became an 18-hour day. And if you have a ton of makeup to get off, that doesn't count. So you're going home and maybe getting 6 hours of sleep and coming back and turning around the other direction. And other countries, it's not 12 hours, it's 10.
Yeah.
So every time I'm in Canada or Europe and they're like, here's your 10-hour turnaround. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? 10 hours? What? That's not enough time to do anything, let alone get sleep and memorize my dialogue for the next day. And crew members, it's 10 hours, even in the US.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of crew members. No one's sleeping. Nobody's well rested. Everybody's exhausted, and everybody on Friday wraps out. And the problem is, you on the weekend you become a family person again, or you catch up with friends, or you do whatever. So you're just exhausted the entire time.
Yeah.
It's quite dangerous sometimes driving home.
I know people who work on crews on TV shows, and it feels like they barely get any turnaround time. They'll work till 2 a.m. and have to be back on set at 6 a.m. It's
because they're allowed to pull you.
Well, and they just they pay you overtime, and you're
sometimes.
Are you going to say no to that? And
so they're allowed to force you. I don't even know exactly what it is. I think they can force you once per episode or once per week without asking your permission.
Yeah.
But they also are supposed to come to you and say, hey, can we pull your call time for tomorrow? We're really sorry. But you can't be the person to go, no.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing is that they shouldn't be able to come and ask us if they can, because now you've put it on me that if we get behind or if we don't finish our week or something like that, I'm the reason.
Yeah.
It's just so unfair.
And
it's such an unfair thing. I have never said no.
Do you get overtime for that at all?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know.
You ever check your bank statements? Yeah.
I don't get overtime. Like
Yeah.
I have a flat rate that I get paid per episode. So like when everyone is like, "Yay, crew overtime on Friday," I'm like, "Good for you guys."
Yeah, and then you're just rushing out there as fast as you can too.
I'm like, "Can I go home?"
Yeah. Just stripping off the armor.
Yeah. Any more question? What was our question? Did we have a question last week?
We did have a question last week, and I don't remember, but I can look it up right now.
Did we
I
get
don't
any
know if-
answers?
Good question. That's the
Because
question.
we're not
of the
prepared
week.
this week. I love it. Well, I'll give let's do another question as you're looking for one.
Yeah.
In what ways are you self-disciplined?
Well, we just talked about a little bit of your self-discipline off mic a little bit with your managing your schedule a little bit more.
Yes, I have said no.
Yeah.
I have said no. I realized that I had overextended my commitments for conventions this year.
Yeah.
And it was on top of summer. And that was family summer vacation. And our daughter's in school now. So it never occurred to me oh wait,
Yeah.
this is the whole family's summer vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I scheduled all these cons and my husband was like, but what about the family vacation and the family reunion and the this and the that? And I was like, oh shit. That's
Yeah.
it. And I booked this job that has pushed a lot of stuff. So I had to cancel Australia, sadly, just canceled Dragon Con. The work always comes first. And I know that that's really hard and it sucks being a person that goes to the conventions and being disappointed when your favorite actor is not there. But there's a clause in all of our contracts that if we book a job, we have to cancel because that is our primary job is first and foremost, I am still an actor.
Yeah.
And if I get a job, that is the priority.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah. For sure.
And it's hard, but it's it's a necessity. So
Yeah.
what about you?
Self-discipline. I think I've always been pretty good about prioritizing creative projects that I like to work on and just making it a priority and finishing things and doing things because that can often get away from people when they want to do something like that.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty good about that.
That's good.
Speaking of projects, should we move to the Patreon and we can tell people about this new project?
We should. When does this episode come out, Jeph?
This comes out on the 17th of June.
17th of June. I'm still just sitting at home. I had an eye appointment today.
Oh, that's great. Hope your eyes are great.
What's happened on the 17th of June?
Yeah.
So that's it.
Well, in the Patreon, we're going to talk about your new project a little bit.
We are.
If you're okay with that. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the AI stuff we talked about with Ashly.
Oh, yeah. There's so much AI going on right now, and especially we've talked about this with Sam Witwer as well. So we're going to get into that over in the Patreon, and we're going to answer some more questions from the patrons, but we're also going to talk about my new job. So thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us. It means the world, and I hope that you enjoyed this wonderful episode with Ashly, and I cannot wait to see you next Tuesday, because that's what's up.